Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But right now is a special time because we are on Intermission. Indiemission, guys. And we are covering the second half of The Assassin of Grins and Secrets by K.E. Andrews.
Secrets.
Thank you so much for that. But Laura,
this is
before
the perfect,
we dive into it,
title to just whisper creepily. If I could do that, like, you know how some people do that demon voice? If I could do that demon voice for this, like, Grins and Secrets.
Grins and Secrets.
I can't do it. I'm bad at voices.
Laura can't do voices or say the word anonymity. So
I cannot say lots of words. There are lots of other words that I cannot say.
I cannot not. But before we dive into words that Laura can't say either, because we did mess up some of these names, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I am going to cheat a little bit. I read System Collapse recently by Martha Wells. We got the arc, and you had read it first, and then you sent it to me, and I read it because we're going to be covering it later on this year. And it's so good.
So freaking good.
It's so good. And I've been talking about it on a lot of social media, like, people go read it, pre-order it now. This is another reminder because it's coming out in November, so pre-order it, request it from your library, do all those things because Murderbot's back. Murderbot is cool. I love Murderbot. Murderbot is me. I am Murderbot. And I just am so glad that Martha is digging a little deeper into some of these themes, and that happens in this book. And it's really great. So things we love about Murderbot are back, and we're building on them, and it's just so fun, and it's also like emotional, and I just love Murderbot being able to do some self-reflection and grow. And everyone go get this book now.
Go get the book. Come on, just go get it.
Get it now. Also, Hannah, I've been kind of perusing this on and off, but I got Star Wars timelines.
It's not funny. Laura loves Star Wars. She gets to love Star Wars. People get to love what they love. I love
Star
this.
Wars. I just held it up in the camera for her to see, which is probably what made it funnier to her.
Yeah.
It's this giant book that is very heavy, and it's Star Wars timelines from the time before the High Republic to the fall of the First Order. And this is pretty much just like a giant history book detailing when things happened within the Star Wars universe, when this person had this battle, when this happened, when this person was born, etc., etc. And you get all these extra details that you maybe would have, at least like for me, weren't paying that much attention when you're watching this stuff, because I know I'm terrible about just like getting caught up and watching a movie or a TV show, and I'm like, oh, I totally missed when that happened. So this is really just kind of it sounds stupid to be like, this is a great reference book, but it's a really great reference book. And I kind of just jump around in it. I haven't been going in order from the beginning to the end. I just kind of open it up to a section, and I'll read a timeline for a while and kind of see where I'm at and what I remember and what I know. And I'm kind of learning a lot more about Star Wars, and I'm really digging it. So if you are interested in this book, the authors there are several authors: Kristin, Baver, Jason Fry, Cole Horton, Amy Richau, and Clayton Sandell. But it's really beautiful to look at on the inside, and yeah, there's an index to help you look for specific things. You can learn all about like early history, the Sith, all sorts of stuff. So it's a really cool book, and I know that it was kind of talked about for a while, and then people stopped talking about it suddenly because it came out, so they were just kind of like, we're done promoting this. But this is me again telling people, go out and get this book because it's fun, and this maybe is one that you'd want to buy, in my opinion, just because it's kind of a lot to read in a couple weeks when you're getting it from the library, and a lot of information to take in. So if you can, try to buy it. And I think the physical edition would maybe be more fun just because it's something you can open up and look at the dual pages of the timeline and not have to worry about like flipping back and forth. So, but it's a really cool book. So if you like Star Wars, snag it because it's great.
Awesome.
Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
Well, for an enjoying, Laura, I have like an obsession because like you know how Wordle was huge for a while. I still play Wordle. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
still play Wordle too.
I still play Wordle. I'm on a 32-day streak. I'm really proud about it. But
Can I tell
like
you something? I saw this ad because after you play Wordle for a certain amount of time, you start getting ads about other things. There's apparently a game called Murdle.
okay, that's what I was about to tell you. I'm enjoying, Laura.
Oh, good. I was
freaking
so interested in
love
it, and I haven't started
Myrtle.
it yet.
Oh my gosh, I play every single day. My partner's girlfriend and
Yay!
I, or my partner's girlfriend, my partner's sister, and I send each other stuff on Myrtle. And I was about to tell you, I've been playing it, and like there are just certain things I play now, and Myrtle is
Uh-huh.
one of them. It's so fun because it's solving a murder mystery, guys, with all
Yes.
these hints. You have like word puzzles and things, and like her least favorite, I find it funny that she hates it so much. I don't really love them either, is when like you have like all the suspects and one of them is lying to you and they all give you
Mhm.
hints and you have to like figure it out using like this little notepad sheet they have. I will tell you something that like we probably didn't read the fine print on. We had some issues where we were like it's so hard to like toggle between the notes and you have to like go up to the suspect
Mm.
thing. There's like a scratch pad that it gives you, like it's a little notebook, and if you click on the suspect in the notebook it'll pop up all their like information, and
Oh,
that was a
okay.
game changer and it made it so much easier when I realized that you could do that.
Okay.
But these games are super fun. I love them so much. I love playing Myrtle every day. I also play this one called Framed, which is just
Okay.
different pictures from a movie, and you have to guess which movie.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
and that one is fun. And so I am definitely enjoying those daily because they're just like fun little daily
Can
games.
I ask how long the Myrtles usually take you to complete?
I would say between 5 and 10 minutes. Like
Okay,
they're
that's not that long then. I thought it
no,
would be longer than that because
uh-uh.
that was initially the reason where I was like, this is something I might look into, but not at this moment because I need to apparently scroll for half an hour.
No, no, no. You're able to do it right on your phone. It takes like, I would say sometimes it even takes like less than 5 minutes. It depends on like
Okay.
what day. Like today, I think I solved it and let me pull up my score.
I
And
solved it in
sometimes
30
like
seconds today. Brag.
no, I accidentally like just the other day I accidentally read a clue wrong and I like egg on my face because I was like, wow, I got everything wrong because I read a clue wrong. I solved it in 5 minutes and 51 seconds. And that was because there were like
Okay.
each day there are different things. Like sometimes it's just like a suspect and a weapon and a location, but sometimes it's a suspect, a weapon, and a location and a motive. And I think today they had quite a few suspects. I think there were 5 suspects. So it just takes you a little bit longer to like dictate, but it actually wasn't
Sure.
that hard once you got into it. It just took a while to get through all the different hints. So I love Myrtle. You should be playing it, and then I could start sending you my scores.
I
Because
I
I love
usually play
it.
Wordle every morning because I have to wake up in the morning and I usually so I have like a weird routine where I have to wake up and take my medicine because I can't eat for an hour
Mm,
after I take my medicine. So I wake up, take my medicine, and then I play Wordle to like wake my brain up for whatever
hmm
reason to like not be a zombie anymore. And it does actually work because you have to think about like what you're doing here. And sometimes I can tell if I'm more tired because I'm like, okay, well, I got Wordle on 6 tries or I
Right.
didn't get Wordle, you know. And it's like, okay, well, not as awake today. But I think it's kind of a fun thing that I have clung to where
hmm
I know other people have kind of given up.
I have not.
But it's good to hear that Myrtle is fun.
Yeah, I really like it. I also recently got like the New York Times like paper, like $1 a week for a year. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I'll do that. So now I have all the New York Times puzzles, and
Hmm.
I'm probably paying $1 a week so I could play those and sometimes look at the New York Times. What are you
It's
gonna
for the
do?
games, be real.
Yeah. So I've been playing Spelling Bee a lot more, and that's also a very fun game.
Okay, what's how is that game played?
Spelling Bee is like there's like a weird little hive. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh
And
yeah,
you
I can see it.
have to use the center letter that's in yellow. And you have to like figure out different words that you can make with that. So
Okay,
like
so it looks like a
today's
honeycomb. So there's 6 hexagons around a center hexagon,
and you
and
must use the center hexagon.
you must use that letter in all the
Mhm.
words.
Yep.
And there's no like
Yes.
word length.
No, like
So
any
you
the
can use like am,
and so
am,
well, oh wait, sorry. There you have to have up to 4 letters.
up to
So
4. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So like you can do
Okay.
trim. Today's, I mean, this is Sunday, guys, but you could use like trimming. And today
Can
is
you do like mint?
yes, which I did already find. So
Okay. But you can use the center letter twice,
you can. So yeah,
but
you can
none of the
use
other letters can be used
you
twice.
can no, you can use all of them twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just like however long you can make. And
So
today,
grim, giant, all sorts of, yeah, okay.
not giant because it's not an M, but
Oh yeah, you have
today's
to use the M, dang it.
yeah, today's helpful because you have ing, and so like every
Yeah, that's a
verb
lot.
you make
Yeah,
you're like,
ring,
oh,
rang.
um
Oh no, there's
yeah,
no M's. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So
Laura, I
but
would be
so
bad at this
far
game apparently.
I'm in the solid. I'm usually good to solid. I got nice one day and great another day, and those are like higher scores. So
Okay.
I like playing them. I think like
Does it
I
ever
don't know.
like cut you off or no?
It does if you don't have the dollar. If you don't pay the
Oh,
dollar
okay.
per week, after a couple, like you'll be guessing, and it'll be like, that is all you get to do for today. You could
Oh
buy
shoot.
for $1 a week, and it's like
So
that's
you do have a
rude.
limited number of guesses if you're in
If
the
you're
free
yeah.
version.
Yes. So, but I those are the things I'm enjoying right now
I
is
love
New
that.
York Times games and Murdle.
That's
and
great.
and Framed. Framed is also very good. I didn't get the movie today. I was very upset about it. I was like, I have no idea what that movie is. And then I read the synopsis because I literally didn't know the movie.
That reminds me of that game that was popular when we were in college that was like 4 pictures and you had to guess what it was talking about. What
Oh
was that
yeah.
game?
I forget what it was
I mean,
called.
this was over a decade ago, so
Yeah.
it's hard to
We
remember, but
neither one of us should remember that.
if
Have
anyone
you
remembers what that game was that I played on my iPod Touch, please. And this was in 2010. And 2010, if anyone remembers that game that you played where it was like 4 pictures and you had to guess what it was. I think it was 4 pictures, 1 word, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds almost right. I don't know. But I do know that someone recently had a TikTok where it was like, do you remember back in 2013 when your iPhone looked like this? And I was horrified that the apps looked like that. And I was like, oh, that's so clunky. So random.
It was 4 pics, 1 word. But yeah, they
Oh,
did look a certain way. And I have weird nostalgia for like having an iPod and having like a separate, because I had, you probably had this too, where you had an iPod or iPod Touch and then you
mhm.
had your cell phone. They were
Yeah,
separate things. You did not listen to music on your phone or play games on your phone really because the games were terrible. And
yeah.
I think I didn't get a smartphone until I was a senior in college.
I didn't get one until I was in law school and going through
Yeah.
interviews because I needed to have access to my email. And that was like the reason
Hmm.
I got, but like in law school, my first year in Chicago, I would literally like look up the train schedule and how to get to the train from where my friends and I would go out to eat at night.
Yeah.
Like that was just what you had to do because I did not have a smartphone. So weird times, guys. Like
It's strange though how I like look back on that fondly because it's like, no, Laura, it's actually better to have this all in one device rather than having all these other devices. But I do like look back on that and fondly like, oh, I
I
kind of
do
miss
think
having that.
I do think it made people more paranoid because the amount of times, like, I remember once I got my cell phone, my mom was always like, do not run without your cell phone. And I was like, I have been running 5 mile circuits without my cell phone for the longest time. And, like, yes, you could harm yourself, but like most people, like, someone would show up or like you would be able to get to a safe location. But, like, we do have this thing of like now that we can reach you at all times, it is an emergency if we cannot reach you. And that's like
Yeah.
not true. That's like there used to be a time, guys, when I would just go to the movies and my parents had to know what movie I was going to see so that they could figure out what time I would be home.
Yeah.
Like there was just certain rules put in place that are now like we have to have content. And I think like that's even some parents they've shown that like parents now freak out their high schoolers can't take their cell phone to class because they can't
Mhm.
reach them at all times. And it's like, you know, we did exist before
I mean,
instant access.
there are more legitimate concerns to that, though. I
Yes,
think
that is true.
unfortunate concerns to that. But I will say, like, just today, my family got together for lunch, and my grandma was calling me to remind me to come, and I did not answer because I was in the bathroom. And the way that all of my family started to panic because they could not get a hold of me, and so then started like texting me like, "Hey, are you still coming for lunch? Did you get the call? We tried to call you." And so there is this degree, like you said, of people maybe relying upon instant access to talking to someone a little too much, where it's like,
Yeah.
it's okay. Like I I was pooping. It's fine.
And this is coming from someone who used to like call my mom at her place of work, call her cell phone, call the house, and if she didn't answer one of those three, when she called me, I was like, "Well, I was assuming you were dead. I assumed you were dead because you were answering a phone call from your daughter. It
It's like
had
that
to be
meme.
death."
It's like that meme that they have where it's like mom doesn't answer on first call. What could you be doing? I am your life.
Exactly. So I am guilty of that, but like it is just weird nowadays to be like, oh yeah, there used to be like an iPhone touchdown,
Yeah.
and I do miss having like all of my music on one location that wasn't just like a thing that had to call. Because now it's like now we just live by how much
By apps.
battery life do you have, like, and how much like storage do you have, and how much of this, and it's like we shouldn't need this much.
And it's also like a weird, so I also feel weird about the whole like you stream everything now and you don't
Yeah.
own anything anymore.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Where we grew up in the DVD era. Well,
Right.
it started out VHS and then moved to the DVD era. And I remember like for Christmas and my birthday, it was always a big deal to get a DVD or
Yeah.
get a CD for some new music. And then we kind of started becoming the era of transferring music from CDs onto our iPods.
Right.
And that was kind of the big thing for a while, but you owned the music. And now
Right.
it's like, I don't own any music. I just listen
Mm-mm.
to apps that play music or podcasts for me. And it's like a weird concept to think about that, to be like, yeah, I watch all these TV shows all the time that I don't own seasons of them. I just
Right.
pay to watch them with a monthly fee. It's a weird concept.
It is very weird. Weird times.
Yeah.
But for also reading, I just finished, it's the last week of small September, when Hannah tried to read small, shorter books. I read all of three.
You read three books this week?
Three small books. No, not
Oh,
this
okay.
week. But this month I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna, but I also like gave the caveat when I said I was doing small September that I'm also going to mood read. And I had a moment where I was like, no, I want to pick up like a murder mystery book. So I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This one was one that I think it was on my 12 recommendations for last year, and I never got
Mhm.
around to it. This book is so adorable, Laura. It is so
Everybody
cute. You
talks
should
about it and really
definitely
likes
read
it.
it. It's like it's about these octogenarians, pretty much, or like septuagenarians. I think
Uh-huh.
they're all in their 70s, who have like a Thursday murder club where they try to solve cold cases together. And like originally they had like a retired police officer who was there with them. She is like currently in hospice when the book starts, so like one of her best friends
Mhm.
is running the club, and just like all of these septuagenarians running circles around police officers and being like, you come in, honey, and like we found all of this evidence for you, and here you go.
Aw.
And then they're like, we will take you in, this is illegal. And they're like, we're just gonna pretend to the judge that like we think that they're our niece. Like, why, what would this do for you? You would look
What? We
silly
didn't
bringing
know.
us in.
We're
Yeah,
old.
like it's just so cute. And then like you
Aw.
have, there was like a bunch of unexpected twists where I was like, oh really, are you really going to go this way? And I was like, I guess. And then I was like, oh good, it went a different way. And like the murders I feel like aren't as important as like the cuteness of just watching them like
As
solve
the
the murder.
relationships and them
Yeah.
doing this.
Yes, and like having all these different ones, it's
Mhm.
fun because like you also, I think, uh the writer Richard Osman, like actually recognize him. He's like an English TV presenter and producer. And so I do recognize him, but like he has like this woman who just joined the club, and she's like writing in her journal, and she like has the hots for all these men. And it's just so nice to read a book where it's like, oh yeah, it's just like a bunch of capable older people who are like having fun and solving crimes. And so
I
it's
love
adorable.
that.
It's very much like Murder She Wrote, but British. So
those books, so one of my friends, she's a reader, and she was telling me that they're some of her favorite books, that series, and she was trying to get me to read them, and I was kind of like, I'm not really in a mystery thriller kick at the moment, but maybe I'll have to check them out if they're just like perfectly cutesy, and
I
I think
bought
maybe I was getting the wrong vibe.
I bought this one from Open Books, so I'll just bring it with you. Bring it when I come home,
Okay.
and you can borrow it because it was very cute. So, but that one was not a small September book, because it is over 300 pages, but it was adorable, and so I was letting myself like have that moment. But I also finished How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz. This book is a small September. Laura, this book is so good. It's it's amazing. It's about Cara Romero. She it's kind of told through sessions. Like she is an older woman um who emigrated from the Dominican Republic, and she is trying to get like work through this work program. So this is just each of her sessions, and it's pretty much just like told from her words, like in this interview with this person. And she is very funny. She's very much like, I definitely want to work, but I do not want to do that job. And through it, like you kind of, she is like not a perfect character. You find out that like her son is estranged from her because he is gay, and she was not very supportive when he was growing up. And she has a complicated relationship with her sister who like lives in the building with her, and she is a little bit judgmental, but like she is also very helpful, and she always helps people. But like it's just a wildly entertaining look at like just again an older woman who had a complicated life and is just like telling this random person all of her woes. It's
Hmm.
so well done. It like discusses like the intricacies of like homophobia and like immigrating to a new country, and like dealing with the struggles of like different perspectives. Like when she came to America, she was fleeing an abusive husband. And so like when she returns, her mother is kind of horrible to her, and then but she's also been horrible to her son, but she sees it as different. And like it's very, very well done. It does like a great look at complexities. And I also think it does a very good look at like the labor of older generations that people turn a blind eye to because we do not value it in a capitalist society. Like
Hmm.
she is trying to get work so she can live in her apartment because she will get evicted if she does not pay for her apartment. But she talks about like how she is needed. And she's like, well, I need to take care of my sister's children while she is in school and while she's going to work. And I have to go do this and I have to go do this. And like the sister devalues her in a couple of the sections of the book, and she's devalued by society because they're like, well, you either work or we kick you out of your home. And like it just kind of shows that like we overlook older people in society, and we just expect them to have like figured it out and how to take care of
Hmm.
themselves, and we didn't build a structure that is helpful for that in a lot of ways. If you don't like, if you live beyond like a specific means, or if you were like her where she is an immigrant who is not a citizen, so she cannot have like access to certain funds that she should have had access to even though she worked in America for years and years and years. And just things like there, it talks about how she has a rent controlled apartment, so they keep trying to like kick her out of it, and how like
Hmm.
she needs this place to live. And just it's very interesting. I really liked it. I really like, oh, she's in her mid 50s, so she's not old enough to like have access to certain funds, but like even in your mid 50s, like she is older, she is a mother of a grown child. And it just like it made me very sad to read a book about someone who had to like fight to find work, even though like their body may not be capable of a lot of work that we expect
Hmm.
someone with her education and with someone with
Hmm.
her like background to do. And that like made me very sad when you think about that and the way we make the world and the way America treats people in this
Hmm.
capitalist society. So it's a very complicated book for like all of 180 pages.
Yeah, absolutely.
um but yeah, and then I read that one first, and then I read the cozy mystery book about septuagenarians.
Good contrast.
But that book was very good. It was a nominee for Best Fiction in 2022. I agree with it. Everyone should definitely read that. It's a very interesting book. So yeah,
That's
but
great.
Yeah, but with that said, should we get into it?
Let's do it.
So we kind of left
We stopped at a weird
Serene.
spot.
Yeah, we stopped at a weird spot where like Serene was like hurt, and then she's like, well, I need to recover. And then she's sort of like getting back into it and all this stuff and getting back to fighting grounds. And he kind of smashed back into like a fighting ring where Sethos is having like fights happen. And suddenly he brings in children as prisoners into the fights because they are part of a rebellious clan and he wants to send the clan a message. And Ramses is like begging his father to stop this. And Sethos is like, well, someone has to die. They have to die. And Serene like prays for them in her own mind. I am switching how I say Serene. It is Serene.
Yeah, this is my bad. Don't ever listen to me when it comes to pronouncing names. Like, no.
We found out from the author, so I'm going to be using that. But I also called Uriah Uriah. So
yeah, we were saying Uriah, so it's Uriah and Serene.
Serene, yeah. And so
we had Ramses right.
We have Ramses right. So Sethos kind of announced at the end of this like children getting murdered, which is like it's kind of a bummer of a day. So maybe don't do that. But he announces that they will be fighting the Malik Akitar, which is like this huge event where warriors come to fight to become one of his Maharab. And it's like a huge honor. They'll be working with Sethos, like they're pretty much like his right hand man. And
which I was kind of taking this to be like you get to become basically a knight if you're
pretty much. And
like,
it's like a huge
an equivalent
honor.
with a knight.
And it's like a huge honor. So so like later
but Ramses, also it's like a really brutal path to become this. So
Ramses like goes out walking with Serene afterwards and he's kind of shocked by his father's actions, but she isn't shocked at all. She's like, yeah, dude, your dad sucks. So much of this book is her being like, yeah, your dad sucks. Like one of the men in the village in the city tries to kill Ramses and she stops him. He asks how she could be his servant and she goes to kill him, but Ramses does stop her. That night he tells her that he wants her to enter the Akhtar and she is furious.
Which so was I, because I was like, literally, how dare you? And he's like, well, I cut a little time off for you if that helps. It's like, screw you. Like first you're like, oh, you know what? You can be an indentured servant for 6 years. And then it's like, actually, you know what? I'll wipe a little time off if you fight for your life and maybe don't die. Like
I think he says he'll let her out in 2 years. So he does cut off 4 years of her indentured servitude.
But still, that's kind of quite a price to pay. Like possible death.
Yeah, possible death if you just do this for me. And Ramses is also like having nightmares about his father at this time. And it's like, oh yeah, the one person without trauma is starting to have some trauma.
Which this is like a situation with Ramses where it's like he's got trauma, he's just denying it.
That's fair. His family was murdered.
Yeah.
So he's having a lot of like complicated thoughts about his father. Serena's refusing to speak with him. He is being such a dick in this moment because he keeps coming up to her and he's like, come on, just talk to me. Like I'm being totally reasonable. And she's like, no, you're not. Like
you're not being reasonable. You're being a deep bag and I can't handle it.
But he does explain to her that he wants to like kind of check up on his father. He doesn't really trust his father anymore. He thinks he's been doing some shady things. And so he needs someone on the inside. And she's the only one he can trust to do it. And again, he does promise to shorten her contract. And he's like, I don't want my father killed, but like, I need information on him. And like, then everyone else.
Well, it's weird because he's like, I still love my dad, but I don't trust him in a deep way. And I think
he might be evil.
He's a terrible person, but I love him dearly. And it's like, oh,
and also all the other soldiers around her are like, why are you doing this for Ramses? He's being perfectly reasonable with you. And she's like, he is not. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And
so also I was kind of confused at this moment because I was like, I thought this was kind of like a secret between the two of them, but then suddenly some of them know, or was that, am I reading this wrong?
No, that is strange. I don't know why that happened. Mystery. Maybe like some more people who are like close with him, or maybe they just like
maybe this is just like a secret from Uriah. Is that what it was? Like he's the only one that doesn't know because he needs like his two most trusted people to not. I don't know. I'm a little confused.
Well, and maybe it's more about the like they probably don't know that she's supposed to be like spying on his dad, but I'm sure if you were like talking to one of your like, because it's like an honor, so it would probably put him in a good light with his dad if like his bodyguard won the fights. So maybe they're like, you should be doing this because he asked you to, and it's like, no,
That's true.
I don't want
They
to.
think that it's like an honorable thing for her to do it, and she
Right.
should because the prince asked.
And so she's having like a lot of bad flashbacks, and Ramses comes up to
Yeah.
talk to her again, and she finally like kind of tells him about what his father did to her.
Mhm.
And afterwards, she
Finally.
does agree to enter the battle and win and become his spy. And then they make a blood contract, which is a very serious contract.
To which Uriah finds out about this, I believe.
Yeah.
Or somebody finds, and Uriah's like, that's gross. You shouldn't do a blood contract.
I didn't read it as he found it gross. I must have misread it, but that's amazing.
That's kind of the tone that I got from it. And I was like, that's a hilarious response to just be like, gross. Why would you do a blood contract?
Ew. But in the blood contract, she also swears not to kill his father. So I'm like,
yeah, she's definitely gonna break that contract.
I know. And then it's like, well, what happens when you break a blood contract? Other than it's gross. But like Ramses talks to Uriah about like her history and the blood oath, and he is horrified. Uriah like immediately goes to like scream at her for existing and doing the blood contract.
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't ask for any of this. What is your fucking problem?
It's like, this is not my fault, Uriah. Calm down.
And she goes, stop worrying about me so much. Start worrying about the people around you. Like, that's the best advice she's ever given him.
Yeah.
Ramses and Uriah go to help Richau and her husband. And like Uriah's being kind of quiet, but so is Ramses. And then they like all talk about like how much Richau loves Serene. And then Ramses is also quiet because he can't believe that what his father did to Serene. And he like, it's like, I kind of feel responsible in a way. It said like every guilty white person ever. Like, Uriah has to be like, try not to make this about you. You are discussing war crimes, and I feel like you're making it about yourself.
I think you're missing the point here, Ramses. Like,
I just couldn't believe Ramses being like, you know that my father was like very evil and like mutilated Serene. But like I kind of feel responsible.
Doesn't it seem realistic to the way that a child would react in a situation like this, like completely oblivious to what the parent is doing, and then be like, did you know that my dad did this? This seems really bad. And I kind of feel like maybe it's my fault because we lived in the same house and we have like similar facial features. So maybe people think it's my fault too. No!
But it's all, I don't know. This scene was wild to me just because Ramses is sitting there being like, so my dad did like war crimes. And Uriah has to be like, so he was in a war. Like, yes, he did war crimes. He was in a war. And then he's like, Ramses is like the D-bag he is in this section. He's like, do you regret the bad things you did in the war? And Uriah's like, yes, Ramses. Yes, I do. But like, I have to believe that it was ultimately like in the fight for peace. And that's all you can do in these situations.
Unfortunately, I have to tell myself that this is okay because otherwise I keep having nightmares. So...
Right. And so Ramses, do you think it might have been my fault that my dad did war crimes? Like,
you know what? Yes.
Yes, I do. That's my favorite moment in Gilmore Girls. There's an episode where like Luke and Lorelai have a huge fight in front of Jackson and Suki after Jackson's like making fun of Luke about his burgers, where he's like, everyone preferred my burgers to yours. And then they have this huge fight and they both leave the room. And Suki and Jackson are sitting there and he goes, is this about what I said about the burgers? And Suki with a straight face goes, yes, it was. This energy. Yes, it was your fault, Ramses.
It is your fault, Ramses.
Then all of a sudden we like jump to another like Ramses and Serene hanging out, and Ramses like, I want to be an architect and I want to build libraries, but my dad believes in war crimes, so I'm not allowed.
Here's the thing. My dad wanted me to be a warlord, which was really unfortunate because I wanted to build places for books. So
I mean, same guy, same.
Hannah's dad also wanted her to be a warlord.
It was his deepest wish. He did want me to go into politics, though. So.
Which is essentially the same.
Exactly. And I just want to build a place for books. So
Amazing.
we learned a little bit more about the battle that's coming up. It isn't unheard of for women to like enter, but a Sardonian woman will be like a big deal.
Yeah, people will notice that a woman is in this and kind of, be sexist. So
people be sexist all the time.
Yeah.
But like there's a rule that you cannot use magic at all. Ramses does want to apologize to her for what she went through, and she's like, please don't. Please stop making this about
Here's the
yourself.
thing, Serene. When it boils down to it, it's my fault. Okay, keep going.
This is like when people try to like tell me they feel guilty for drinking around me, and I'm like, that's not about me.
Yeah. Sorry,
Listen,
this is unrelated.
My drinking problems have nothing to do with you having a beer. I promise.
Thank you.
I have had people be like, it kind of makes me uncomfortable when I like to drink around you. And I'm like, oh, that's not my fault.
That sounds like a you problem.
That sounds like a you problem. I've never once asked you to change your lifestyle or your choices based on my own background and feelings.
Yeah, that is very similar to what Ramses is doing in this moment.
He's like, I'm just so sorry I was born into wealth. And she's like, fuck off.
Yeah. I really apologize for all the privilege and money that I have.
God. So she like goes to enter into the fight. She is up against a golden general named Hussein. And she is able to hold her own and hit him 3 times, which were in the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone is shocked that she was able to bring him down, and he is horribly sexist and dangerous.
Yeah.
And afterwards, like one of the men tries to hit on her in a really weird and creepy way. And
that
she like
bothered me. I don't know why. I didn't like that.
But she like shuts it down, and his name is Fang, and he like immediately turns aggro and is like, I'll get you for this, for saying no to me. And then
seems very incel like
oh yeah. I'm gonna blame you for not wanting to have sex with me. Poor Saray just has to deal with everyone else's problems.
I know, that's kind of how it is.
So, and then 2 women kind of step in. One called Selvag. She is adulation. I saw this, not to make fun, this is just how my mind works, but I saw adulation and I immediately went to Andalasia. Andalasia
from Enchanted.
So exactly. And they do kind of like throughout the book they end up becoming friends. There's funny moments in this book where like the adulations are very like upfront about wanting to sleep with men and liking powerful men. And so like one of them goes after Uriah, and Uriah spends the entire time horrified because Uriah be Uriah-ing. And we find out he doesn't believe in premarital sex because he is a ginger. And it's just like, yeah. So all of that happens in the background of some of these chapters that I will not get into. But then we also have Serene running into an old friend named Annika. Annika is a sex worker, and she also worked for the old leader of the assassins, Xanxus, and she was able to escape him, and she's like changed her name to like make sure she's protected. Right. And Serene is kind of like, were they able to like kill him? And she's like, no, honey, he's still wandering around, he got away. And like Serene really thought that she had given him up, and that she had like sent people after him so that she was like done with Xanxus. So this kind of switches things up, and now she's a lot more fearful moving forward.
Which is a really sad moment actually, because when you're finding out about this, you're like, okay, well, this is a lot of trauma that we're getting, you know, that the voice that Serene was hearing is Xanxus' voice, and it's just really devastating to see that fear come back into her life when she was kind of just like, okay, no, I thought he was gone. And
Well, and immediately, like, the voice becomes more predatory moving forward because she is
Yes.
scared of him assaulting her again.
And you
And
do feel that change
yeah.
too.
And it just like it kind of ramps everything up to an 11. So
Hmm.
she like goes out that night to see Annika. Uriah sees her and follows her, and the entire time she's like, yeah, he's behind me, I got it. um and so
Uriah, the non-sneaky
I
person
know,
that he is.
he's a sneaky sneak. No. So uh she does go talk to Annika, and they kind of like catch up on what's been going on.
Mhm.
And then as she's leaving, Uriah like stops her and he's like, do you like women? And it's like, what? Why? Why is this a discussion? Because she like
What?
came out of a brothel. Like, and yeah, it was very specific. She's like, I went to see an old friend. Calm down.
Which
Um,
I'm just gonna mention quickly. I really like the character of Annika. I don't know. I just think that she seems chill and kind of a
she,
good balance to some of the other characters who are just like Uriah, like very paranoid.
well, and like Annika's I love a look at someone who is like, hey, I have a past with like this assassin. I probably
Hmm.
killed people like within my duties as like a sex worker, but like
Hmm.
also I left that life and I'm still going to continue on in that role because I'm good at it and I don't mind it, and that's
Right.
fine. And I do love that like she isn't like talked
It's
about
not
in
like a
a
shamed position.
no, like she is like in a very nice, well-maintained
Hmm.
brothel. Like she is like Serene doesn't have to hide whenever she like goes to see her. She's not being abused. Nothing's happening. Like she's just a sex
Right.
worker who is existing. And Serene goes and visits her whenever she pleases. And they have a very good friendship. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
like female trust there. And I really
Right.
do like that character a lot. So
Completely agreed. And then there's Uriah, who's just like absolutely paranoid and is just like, I'm not stalking. I just followed you here.
I'm not stalking. It's just anytime I see you leave the castle, I become suspicious and then I immediately follow you. Okay. You have to be exactly in the location I thought you were going to be in. Okay. Um, we find out that Ramses is going to enter an archery contest out of nowhere.
That was
And
a
she
little random.
and she does tell him about Annika.
Hmm.
And she's like, oh, she's an old friend, you know. And he's like, did she kill people too? And she's like, well, in her own way.
Probably.
um, so Serene then has to go to a party with all the contestants. Il Maka, like who is the leader of the Golden Jackals, is kind of like,
Hmm.
why did you want to enter into the palace like competition? And she's like, yeah, leave me alone, go away. Like, you're
Hmm.
suspicious. She's also almost attacked by General Hussein. Ramsey steps in and Hussein is like, what's your slave? She ends up like going back to her room and suddenly Sansus is there. He is a creepy old man with
Yeah.
long white hair. And he is quote unquote happy to see her again. We find out he definitely directly played a role in getting her imprisoned and keeping her there.
Which is
And
just like an additional layer of me hating this character because it's just like, there's all this trauma related to this character for a lot of reasons. And
mhm.
then when you find out that literally he's playing a role in her being a servant, it's just like, oh
Yep.
gosh.
And he's just incredibly predatory where he like no
Hmm.
she this is like the worst type of predatory like in books where like someone's telling you to your face like I wanted you dead, you're terrible, I effing hate you, and they're like you're happy to see me, you left me, and it's just like what, how does that compute in your mind? It's
It's
disgusting.
creepy in that way that it's like a character that's treating another character as less than human
Hmm.
and then still using the twisted words to like put themselves up on a pedestal,
Hmm.
and also at the same time like the descriptions of how like he looks at her and everything, I
Hmm.
just like am
and,
bothered.
and he's like touching her and he asks
Yeah.
her where their baby is. So we find
Mm-hmm.
out that through the product of like sexual assault, she
Mm-hmm.
was pregnant. And he wonders if it was boy or girl. She tells him that it died, but in her head, she says that he will never find them. So this
Mm-hmm.
is the sun and the stars that we have been hearing in her mind throughout
Yeah.
this novel. He kind of goes to cut her and she starts screaming and Uriah comes running in because he was about to come talk to her. He tries to threaten Xanthus. Xanthus like pushes something over her mouth and we find out that that's poison and he like jumps out the window. Uriah is trying to help her, but she's muttering about her children and the fact that he shouldn't find them. And Uriah is shocked that she could have children. He's like, "You're a mother?" And it's like, yes, lots of people could be mothers.
It's one of those things where like I don't I always like equate this to like when I was younger, if I would see my teachers like at the grocery store or something like that, I was always like,
Yeah.
"What? What are you doing here? You're supposed to be at school." It's like, no, they have lives. And so I think that Uriah is having the same situation where it's like, yeah, Serene has a life outside of you and the amount of time that you have known her.
Right. And we find out that she has a daughter named Astra and a son named Luca. And she does like in this moment, she is smart enough, like as she's being poisoned and like falling under, she's like, "You can't tell anyone." And then she passes out. So Uriah like does listen to her. He runs and he goes, gets help from her, like maidservant, Rizwana. And then we kind of start getting these flashbacks of Xanthus drugging and you know, assaulting assaulting Serene, and she doesn't really know what happened. She like never really understood at the beginning, and then she later on it kind of continues, and we do find out that it happened when she was far too young to have something like that happen to her, and it was pretty awful. We have like
this is a really dark section, and I think it's one of those that I honestly kind of liked the way that the author portrayed this, because a lot of times sexual assault, I think, does occur when people are very young and don't understand necessarily, and may kind of brush it off like, "Oh, it wasn't a big deal. That didn't happen to me." And then, you know, as they get older and reflect on situations like this, then they kind of recognize what happened to them. So I think that's kind of how it was depicted in this story. So I did appreciate that, even though it was difficult to read.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So she kind of like Uriah lies to Ramses about this. He says she just had food poisoning. He kind of covers for her as she gets better. She and Uriah kind of have a couple of conversations about her children where she's like, "Yes, I have them. I have to keep them protected from Xanthus. Like, I was caring for them until I was taken and like thrown in jail." Like, we do find out that she was like kind of caring for them for a couple of years, and she went into town. Like, they do remember their mother. This always made me sad because I just keep thinking about like if she returns to them after serving for 6 years, like they're going to be like age like 10 pretty much, or like 10 or 13, like between those ages.
I mean, they'll
And,
be
like,
teenagers almost, and that's a huge chunk of time to be gone. Ugh.
So that just made me really sad. So, and it tells you like why she's entering this competition, because she just needs to get back to them as soon as she can. And so like throughout this time, she kind of has to go like talk to Enika about the fact that Xanthus is there. She's just really scared that Xanthus will get to her and like keep her and get to her children. Well, and
I think she's also concerned for like not just herself, but the people around her, like her children, but also Enika, and maybe from like an extended stance, like Uriah and Ramses too, because she's just like, what will Xanthus stop at? You know, probably nothing.
And also I forgot, at the banquet, she thought she saw a woman might or Matya. Matya is Xanthus's like, it's kind of like his backup favorite. Like, Matya is an assassin who like adores Xanthus and kind of drank the Kool-Aid with him. And like he did prefer Serene because obviously he like assaulted her. He kind of held her in this esteem. He gave her markings, quote unquote, from him. But Matya like is obsessed with Xanthus and like wants to do everything he says. And I also thought that this was an interesting take on the sexual assault. I also thought this was definitely handled where Matya believes that Serene like gets benefits from sleeping with Xanthus, and like Serene is like, I was assaulted when I was a child. Matya is like, you wanted that to happen. You just wanted favors. He gave you everything. And it's like, it's a very specific belief of like, he takes these children and he is in fact grooming them in different ways. Not just for like the Serene version, but the Matya version of like, become obsessed with me, want to do your like live for me. and then you will agree to everything I say. Like it's definitely
Right.
like a cult leader almost, where like Mattia cannot see like all
Mm-hmm.
of the horrors he has done because she thinks he like created everything pretty much. So I also
Yeah.
thought that was very helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to, or good thing to add because it's definitely like nice to see the different ways that this kind of situation can affect people.
Yes.
And yeah, well done by the author.
Um, and so we also find out that like Annika is super close with Serene because Annika helped her escape when they found out she was
Hmm.
pregnant. Um, and she had all these people who helped her, and there like are people who were with the children who could take care of them and knew like why she would be gone.
Hmm.
Um, but she just wants to get back to them. So, but Uriah does decide that he's not going to tell Ramses because he promised not to.
Hmm. Which is good because I was kind of worried about that too, that he was just gonna like immediately go and be a tattletale.
Right.
And so it was kind of nice to know that, yeah, he's someone that we can trust. And it, for me, this was more of like a turning point for the character because up until this point, I was kind of like, Uriah, you are not hitting it for me. You are being annoying. But at this point, I was like, okay, this is a turning point for this character. We can start to trust him and know that he's not just going to be like that tattletale character that's like super annoying and everyone has to follow the rules.
But then also he goes immediately into like I am Nightman because like Fang like comes and attacks and he like has to defend her honor. And I love
Hmm.
this because Serena is like, why did you do that? Like we could have just walked away from this situation. You're such an idiot. Like
I
me
know.
being a mother does not mean you like immediately have to
I'm
take
not
care of
helpless.
me. Like calm down. We could have just walked away from this because like Fang comes and he's been drinking and he's like, oh, you'll open your legs for anyone. And Uriah's like, don't talk about her like that. And then like they get into this fight where like Uriah's taking care of Fang and like Serene has to take care of the other like three. And she's like, dude, I was poisoned like a week ago. Like, could you
I'm
just
kind of going through a lot here.
why like my rapist is back in town? Could we just
Hmm.
not like it's I feel bad for her so much. Um but Uriah gets attacked. He loses his pendant and all the like hullabaloo. He like wears a rock on his neck. We find out that it's due to his religion. Like his
Hmm.
people worship like the elements, and he chose rock because he is rock. Like pretty much. Uh and so she like takes him back. She gets Ramses to kind of like help him out, and Ramses is like, "You were attacked. Oh no." Um, and she takes the opportunity to like go get the guy who like helps with illnesses and everything, and then she raids his office for some information. I was like, okay,
Which,
go off.
great.
um but she's like, oh, and so she gets some of it, but then she gets like some records regarding Ramsey's uncle who died, and
Hmm.
like his family who are supposed to have been like she kind of thinks that they were poisoned or there was something that like kind of went on underhandedly, and she's like, well, I can't
Right.
get through all of this, so I'll have to come back another night. um and then someone like offers to patch her up, and she's like, no thanks, I'm good, I've gotten attacked enough.
No,
uh
I'm good. I like to have wounds.
So Uriah doesn't like tell Ramses about the children, but he does tell him about Xanthus and about the fact that like
Hmm.
no one knows what Xanthus look like, because I guess Serene only told one person and then Xanthus murdered that one person. So they were like, oh, well, we'll have to get what he looks like out to all the people to like see if we can catch him. And she's like, yes, distribute it to everyone. Please do this. And they kind of have to figure out a way to like tell Sethos like, hey, we had this information, but we had to like confirm that that's what was happening. So he doesn't murder Serene for like not telling him about Xanthus immediately. And they have to do like all these backflips to tell them like why they kind of kept it a secret. So that's fun. Um, and she and like Ramses kind of talk about Xanthus, and like they talk about how he wants to kill her father, or
Hmm.
kill Ramses's father, and like all that fun stuff about like what is Xanthus like, and it's like, well, he has like uh he just wants to murder people, he just wants to be on top, and it's kind of showing that like he's not any better than Sethos because they still just
Yeah.
want power at the end of the day. um And she is just like trying to live her life and trying to get past all of
Right.
this. But she does tell uh Ramses that she like kind of suspects that his father might have killed his brother,
Hmm.
the uncle,
The uncle.
because she thinks like he probably wanted power. And Ramsey's like, I don't know, my dad was pretty devastated when my uncle died. And she's like, could he
It's
have
like
been
people
devastated?
can act.
Well, and she was also like, do you think he could have been devastated because he murdered his brother? That could have been what happened. And she kind of lets him in on like like a little bit more than like, oh, we have this like Matya here. She's like working with Xanthus, and she's kind of just like telling him all of these things, and he is horrified because he's Ramses, and he was like, I thought I was
Hmm.
the smartest person in the room. Um, and so she kind of asks for some more information from him to like help look into his uncle's death. So in the next section, like Serene is kind of figuring out like Fang, like what is his like deadliness, like how could she attack him, if she has to go up against him in the ring, like what will that look like. She runs
Yeah,
into
because it's one
Matt.
of those things where it's like all these side plots are happening, but then there's
Yeah.
also I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We
There's
are
a
still dealing with this big competition that she's got incredible stakes in.
right. And so then she runs into Matya, who's like, again, like I said, definitely drank the Kool-Aid of Xanthus, like believes
Hmm.
everything he says. And like Serene just kind of mocks her and calls her like Mayfly, kind of reminds her that like she was the stronger of the two. And Matya is like horrified by this. She's like, Xanthus gave you everything, and you
Hmm.
know, are trying to destroy him. Uh, but they definitely have been posting his picture everywhere and making it harder to like get around him, but he still is able to get letters to Serene throughout all of this, and she's upset by it because she's kind of like, okay, well, that's like he knows people, he could always get to me, and it's really like freaking her out. Also during this time
Well, it's
she's
actually like just like such a creepy, I think, because this also happened in the Poppy War trilogy
Mhm.
where letters were appearing, and it's it feels like such an invasion of privacy, honestly, even
Mhm.
if it's just the form of a letter, because it's like they know where we're at. There are people that are helping this person who is out to get me, and it just feels like really violating, honestly.
Yeah. And we also find out during this that like Serene is kind of looking into the old war, and we find out that there was like this plague going around that killed
Hmm.
anyone who was a magic user or like had immortal blood in them. And so like that kind of drove everything. And
Hmm.
she's wondering how this all works. Like if Sethos was like making there was some way to like make that plague, if there was something going on, you know, all of this different stuff. Um
Yeah, because it obviously would make sense for the person who is like, magic should be outlawed. We don't want this in our entire kingdom to have come up with some kind of scheme, like, I don't know, a virus of sorts to eliminate
right.
any magic users. That would be
That would be
odd, but
pretty good.
also it would make sense.
Um, we also have like a couple of moments with like she gives Uriah his pendant back. They talk about her little cat tiger named Nala,
Hmm.
Lion King much. Um,
Which doesn't, wait, no, Simba means lion in Swahili.
yeah.
I don't know what Nala means. Never mind.
I don't know. Um, but yeah, so we have, like you said, there's like a lot of different flashbacks with Sansa that get worse and worse and kind
Hmm.
of go back into her history for why she is this way. Um, she's like trying to figure out Sansa's weakness. She's just trying to focus in and like make everything okay. And then we get to part 3, called The Smiling Rage, which is a good section to name
Hmm.
it. So again, we just have lots and lots of background sections that I don't really want to get into because it's a lot about like
A lot of
assault, and
abuse.
that's not
Yeah.
fun to discuss. And so like Uriah and Serene are trying to like hunt down Xanthus. He's leaving notes like at like hotels that he said he was staying at, and she was like, I knew this was too easy. He like keeps being like, you and I are so much alike, like we're meant to be together, like I enjoy our game. And again, it's just really gross.
Yeah.
um and so uh Seth has also like questions her during this time of like, what are you loyal to Xanthus? And she's like, no, I hate that guy. Like, um And then
But I mean, it's a fair question. I'm
right.
especially considering what we know about other characters. So
Right. And then like she goes into the ring again. She fights someone else. She wins because Serene's pretty good at fighting, guys. Um, and like everyone's kind of looking for Xanthus at all of her different fights because they know he will want to see her. Um, and it like makes her upset because it is upsetting. She keeps thinking a lot about her kids. She like sees Xanthus in the crowd. She's becoming like a little bit more paranoid, but we do find out that he definitely was in the crowd. And he is annoyed that like she was able to kind of get one over on him by putting up his face and making it so he has to hide. She has to face up against Matya in the ring. Matya is very excited. She wants to she like wants to win. She needs it a little bit more than Serene.
It's kind of one of those creepy ways of like wanting to prove herself to Xanthus, and it feels icky.
But then you also feel like I do feel,
but
again,
but also yeah, like pity
I
and
think
empathy
Matya,
for this character.
Matya is not a good person, but she is a victim. Like that's the whole thing. Like you can have like
there's multiple ways to look at this situation,
right?
And none of them feel good.
Because the second she loses, like Serene is quick to note that like she lost against me. She has now shamed Xanthus, so she won't be able to live if she goes back to him because she is able to take Matya down because Matya is too emotional and cares too much. And then they immediately capture her and go like trying to find Xanthus. They almost find him, but they are unable to do so. And they like she kind of warns them like, hey, keep Matya like locked down because if you don't, she will escape because she needs to like get back to him or he will kill her. Like this is not good. And so she kind of like wants to offer herself as bait to Xanthus. And Uriah's like, don't do this. Like, come on. And she's like, I have to. Like, this is about my kids. This is about me. Like, you can't like understand. And Uriah, I love this. Uriah goes, I don't understand her. I doubt I ever will. And it's like, yeah, that's about it.
That makes sense. I don't think you will either, Uriah.
Yeah, like out of all the people who could maybe understand Serene, you're not
low
on
the list.
So yeah. And then Ramses is still like being Ramses. Like he's just kind of hanging out, talking to his siblings. His sister is still obsessed with Serene, and he's kind of like, I didn't realize she liked her so much. Like it's a very strange moment. But he also like his dad comes in, he has a moment with his dad where like it seems nice, but he's also thinking like, well, but is my father an insane murderer? What's going on? How do I
love
trust
him dearly, but I'm really getting some murderous vibes at the moment.
Oh god. Yeah, so that's all fun. And then they know that Saray, like Xanthus was probably in the crowd when the two women were fighting. But so like they kind of keep looking for him, and he does leave a note in her bedroom, like we said. During a lot of this, like Ramses wins his archery battle. Serene keeps fighting. She like has 2 more fights to go. They're still looking for Xanthus. Like we have a lot of background stuff. Some of the highlights are like one night.
There's a lot of conversations that happen between them and kind of getting to know each other.
Yes. We have a moment where like Ramses and Serene are out and about together. And she takes him like it's kind of a dangerous time to be out and about if you're Ramses, but he keeps being like, I'm fine, do. And she's like, no, you're not. So she ends up like having to take him into the catacombs one night. And they're like sitting there talking, and then all of a sudden they hear footsteps. And at first she's like, well, I think it's probably just someone like counting like bodies and like keeping track of records and everything. But then they hear
which is dumb on Serene's part, because I feel like this happens to her a lot, where she's like, no one's following me, I'm so sneaky, ha ha ha. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, was that somebody following me?
Maybe I should be concerned. Oops. But like she and Ramses have to hide in like this catacomb, like around bodies, and Ramses is sitting there like, disgusting, and just like shove his mouth quiet. And then Sethos is there. He's nearby, like at his brother's tomb, and he's kind of like praying for forgiveness almost. And then they hear like some action in the background. And he leaves, and they like go to investigate, and she realizes that he took something from his brother's tomb, and there is no body there. And Ramsey has a moment where he's like, I'm pretty sure I saw my uncle's dead body, but I don't remember. And she's like, well, are those the bodies of like his actual family, or is that like fake out? And he's like, I don't know. So now there's like a question of like, well, was the royal family actually murdered?
Doesn't he puke too?
Yeah, he does puke. And she's like, well, you better hope someone washes that away.
Because it's like one of those things, he's coming to all these realizations like, no, this can't be, he can't be a bad person. Blah. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
And that's just, and there's like rats coming around them, and she's like, oh, please don't let them eat us. Like, yeah. So she enters into like her kind of final battle. And a little of these were out of order. I apologize. My notes are not the best in this moment. But she does enter her final battle against Fang. And she starts fighting with him. She thinks like she could probably get the upper hand, but all of a sudden he uses magic, and Serene is able to see magic based on the fact that she is Ravanasi, and she's kind of horrified because like he is about to get like the one up on her. But then she is able to break away, and she is able to stop him and like win. So she is now won.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a big deal because now there's a lot of things moving. She is about to become the knight. And now she's wondering how he was able to use magic, how he was able to get it in, how no one else was able to see it. And she kind of has like some weird she has like a weird thought about like seeing something where it's like, who are you? The darkness asked no one. A pale yellow echo answered. A child stood with her, back to Serene, turning around as she approached, and it's like, who are you? No one, Serene said. So it's like it's got some weird like magic stuff going on. And we don't really know what's going on with all of this, but something is afoot. And then the epilogue is we meet a man named Sauron who is like thinking about the corruption spreading. He has visions that are growing. And we also learned about King Malchinetan, who's like looking at the moon, and it's like Vanya has hidden herself, and they're kind of talking about magic and the plague and everything in between, and the fear that Sethos's people are coming towards them, and they have to figure out what to do next.
It's kind of setting up that like this is going to be a bigger fight than we thought, that there's more people involved than just this small little section. So I kind of like this epilogue setup.
It was a good epilogue. I liked the setup, and that ends The Assassin of Grins and Secrets. It's definitely meant to be a continuation novel. Right. Like we have a lot of setup. We have a lot of scene setting with this book. But yeah, so that is that. Guys, have you read the book already? I hope you did, because we just went into very big details with this.
Yeah, you just listened to all the spoilers. So
every single one of them. But no, if you want to read the book, make sure you're picking it up, because like we said, like there's a lot of stuff that we skimmed over just because.
Yeah. And also I would say with a caveat, like make sure you're in the right space to read this, because there are a lot of difficult things. I'm going to Hannah, just this as a note for you, I'm going to put a content warning for this episode.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, but it's definitely a book that you have to be in the right mindset for. You don't want to read it just like willy-nilly. It does get into a lot of darker themes. And yeah, so make sure you're in the right headspace, as Laura said, and make sure you're rating the book, because that is always helpful with Indiemission. Indie authors,
just like spreading by word of mouth. I've seen a lot of authors saying this recently online, and I really like it because they're saying like reviews are helpful because it's people talking about the book, and literally word of mouth is the best way to spread information about a book or to get their book out there more than any other form that they can market their book in. And so if you want to support indie authors and support indie authors like Katie Andrews, tell tell people about the book.
Yeah.
Tell them to pick it up if you think they might enjoy it.
Definitely. And we want to thank everyone for joining us along in this indie
Yeah.
mission. Next week, we have the wonderful K.E. Andrews on
The
the
author
pod.
herself.
She was wonderful enough to come speak with us about this book. It was a wonderful conversation. We hope you'll
It was
listen
a lot of
to
fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was wonderful getting to know K.E. Andrews right before she took a trip to Europe. So
Yeah.
she was so nice to like sit down and talk with us
Yeah.
as she was getting ready to go on vacation. So we really appreciate that. We really hope you're following along. And also, talk about our podcast because we are also an
Yes.
indie podcast technically. So make sure you're talking about us. Tell your friends. Please
Spread by word
rate,
of mouth.
please rate, review, and subscribe. You can follow us on Discord. We have a Discord. We love talking on it. Make sure that you are looking up all of our stuff on our pod. That's OWWR pod to see our reading schedule and everything coming up. And just make sure you're following along because we really appreciate it. You can follow us on all the social platforms at OWWR
All of them.
pod. All of them. We're on all of them. We're on so many of them. We're on so many of them.
There's also links to everything in the show notes. So
yes, so please make sure that you are checking that out. And we really appreciate you guys joining us. Bye.
Bye.